Before we get to your scheduled video, please remember that likes and comments tell YouTube to promote our work to other people, and subscribing to the channel tells you when something new drops. You can also head to the link tree in the description to peruse my books, join us on Discord, or support us on Patreon. You can get episodes of Journey of Wrestling and Violent Profiles early, as well as a load of other treats. Even just $1 a month earns you a name drop for being cool. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the show. Greetings and salutations, my fellow sleep-deprived individuals. It is I, Eric J. Chucky, joined as always by the boy.
Hey.
This is the Two Nerds Podcast, and we are back with the ill behavior. It is the return of the Gauntlet, as heavily requested by at least one of you. We're actually going to try to do at least one of these a year, maybe more, depends on how we feel. But it was a fun concept. It just takes a lot of effort to put together.
Comparative to our normal podcasts, which are, hey, you want to do this? Yeah, sure. And then we do that.
Or it's representative of effort we already put forth for another reason.
Right.
Before we get into all that, I do want to talk about who is cool.
Who is cool?
That's going to be Harmony, DG, a guy from Ohio, Passion Killer 711, Rob, on the tip of your tongue, and the best for last, at least as far as this is concerned, is True City KTL. Without KTL's enjoyment of this series, we probably wouldn't have brought it back more than once. So
basically, we were planning on doing one this year because it is our 10-year anniversary of doing this show, and we like this concept. But KTL likes these, and he's one of the patrons. He's cool, and we listen to the patrons more than other people.
Yeah,
they're cool.
Yeah. Feel free to play along if you want. Comment how your Gauntlet does. Pick your characters now. That's how we do this. We each come up with our characters individually. And then the challenges, once the challenges are set, we reveal the characters. Any substitutions that have to happen. This is based on a post on Reddit that isn't around anymore.
Hasn't been for years. Hasn't been since before the first episode of the Gauntlet.
Yeah, we credit the person in the first episode of this show. I don't remember their name now. So the rules are, any physical equipment the character has, as well as any mana or other spell-casting resources, are replenished between each round. Non-fatal injuries are automatically healed between rounds. We can't take anything gained within the rounds with us between the rounds. Everyone knows the setup of this experiment and why they're here. They all have to get along, which is something we do in team choosing more than anything else.
It's not that they're required, it's not that they are forced by the situation to get along, it's that you need to pick people who will get along. At least enough to get the job done.
And we can't use a character twice every time we do this, unless the winner, who has a token, I don't think we've spent any of our tokens.
We haven't.
Have a bunch saved up for our past choices. The idea is that we have 6 challenges, 3 from me, 3 from him, that we put forth and organize into rough order of difficulty that these guys and us need to make it through. Whoever comes out with the better result wins. I have won 2, he has won 4. We had 1 fail state, and Matthew Lillard defeated us once.
Yep.
And now you know.
All right. So, let's go with the teams first. I believe that is tradition.
Yeah, go ahead and introduce your team.
My team, so the rough theme here, since we haven't done the podcast, haven't done this podcast since basically, mid-2020, around, when the pandemic was a thing, we decided to take just the last 5 years, 2019 through today, as a good rough time frame, and tried to pick stuff from things we have gotten into or discovered since that last Gauntlet podcast.
Couple of things we picked are a little on the line, but that's okay.
Or maybe a shade earlier, but basically that was the idea. So, my team consists of Arthur Morgan from Red Dead Redemption 2. As he prefers to be called, Reacher from the show Reacher. His first name is Jack, but he barely ever uses it. Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn. And in a replacement, Kingston Brown from Dimension 20's Unsleeping City. My original pick was a different Lou Wilson character from that same series, a different season, called Amathar the Unfallen. But then I realized Amathar is a candy person, and a lot of rain happens in non-Candyland. So, no, I'll be replacing him with Kingston Brown from Uptown.
And now your Aloy is just from Zero Dawn.
I have not played Forbidden West,
Right.
so I'm not going to be using anything from Forbidden West on account of I don't know what happens there. My Kingston Brown is also just from the first season of Unsleeping City, as I did not vibe with the second season nearly as much. Zoom games aren't really my thing, and other reasons.
And Arthur is the good Arthur Morgan.
Yes, he is peak. Got the good. Got like the final good ending. Arthur Morgan. That caliber of good boy.
Now, of course, also, everything we mention, expect spoilers for those series, because we're going to be exploring their abilities to the limit that we have knowledge for, so
Yep.
that is what it is. My team is Dennis Stanton, the gentleman thief from Murder, She Wrote. I did watch some Murder, She Wrote when I was younger, but I never saw his episodes, and really only got introduced to and fell in love with the character then. Bobby Singer from Supernatural. I did see him in one episode 10 years ago, but I didn't latch on to him then, so I think he counts. Laszlo Cravensworth, who I wouldn't have seen without a guy from Ohio who has told us to watch all of What We Do in the Shadows, and at the end of it, I like Laszlo. And Skullduggery Pleasant, from the first book in his series. I haven't read any of the others. It's for children, but it's good.
We both pretty much agreed when we read it, because he read it and recommended it to me, that if we were in the right age range when this book was a thing, we both would have really liked this book.
I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was
for what
fun.
It was, yeah.
It just wasn't. I would have glommed on. There's a TikTok sound from a YouTuber called Ted Nivison, which is someone looking around the room and saying, this is going to be my personality for the next 4 years of my life.
Nah, yeah.
That would have been me with this book series if I had been just a little younger.
Yeah. Still fun. I look forward to reading the rest. I'm just bad at reading. So that brings us to the challenges.
Yes, we generally order these in rough order of difficulty. We haven't pre-ordered these, but I feel like they kind of...
I did.
Oh, you did? Good. Because they kind of fall into a natural range. Let's go over the challenges.
Well, I think we typically introduce them one at a time, right?
We didn't in the first episode, but I didn't listen to any of the others before this. So.
Do you think it would be more interesting to introduce them one at a time?
Let's do it that way.
Yeah, I think for the listener, it would be more
let's do it that way.
Okay, so challenge number 1 was inspired by Bless the Hearts, a show I got into just before I actually got COVID, and I was binge watching during. Complete gift shopping list during Black Friday, no violence. And we each have some kinks in that line, because good as he is, you have Arthur Morgan.
He is a good man, but that's a new development.
And I have Laszlo Cravensworth. I think both of them are possessed of a lack of patience.
I'm gonna be honest. I think Arthur can be really patient when he finds something amusing or otherwise non-threatening. He can be just sort of amused at all of the wacky people beating each other up for toys.
Sure.
My bigger problem is Reacher.
Okay.
Reacher's genuinely an antisocial guy. He doesn't like crowds. He doesn't like people. He finds them annoying. And so doing that, completing a Christmas shopping list, perfectly valid. Doing so without beating up at least one asshole, that's a challenge. We're going to be pairing him with Kingston Brown. Kingston is going to be his minder for this challenge.
Okay. Bobby can be a little short-tempered, but I don't think he's going to start stuff.
There is no rule against calling other shoppers idiots.
Right. So I think we're fine there. I believe my ace in this situation, perhaps this will balance out Laszlo somewhat, is Dennis Stanton. He is a cat burglar and charmer. I think he can even take stuff from other people's baskets willingly, or get it willingly, or take it without them knowing.
And hey, Skullduggery is a fairly accomplished thief in his own right.
That's true. That is very true.
So he has magic powers. That helps. My ace here is all dependent on the prompt. Could you read the prompt again?
Complete gift shopping list during Black Friday, no violence.
Cool. Doesn't say where. I'm doing mine in New York. Kingston sweeps.
The idea was that it was a megalomart, but I don't see why there wouldn't be a megalomart in New York, in Bless the Hearts. So.
He would hate that megalomart. He's very much a bodegas and local shops kind of guy.
Right.
But if he's within the city of New York, the world bends to his will, and basically the city itself wants to help him. He wants to get this toy. Cool. There's an extra shelf behind all the other shelves that no one else can see where the toy is.
In that sense, given that ability of his, I'm going to say you get this. Although without specifically that power, I would have argued harder.
Oh yeah, if this isn't in New York, he's still a city domain cleric. He still has, good powers in cities, but he is specifically the Vox Populi of New York. There are other Vox Populi in that world of other cities, so I feel like that wouldn't transfer to other cities. That specific extra tier of abilities.
I have no problem with hometown advantage. I don't think any of my guys need it. Also, if Laszlo's there, it makes sense that it would be in New York area. So
he lives on Staten Island.
Yeah, and it's Black Friday. During the day, he's gonna have problems anyhow.
Yeah, but at night he can just hypnotize people and be like, "Give me this toy." Good.
Now, your entire cart, madam. Thank you very much.
And then he rolls away.
But I think you edged me out on this one, so I'm willing to give that to you. Let me mark that down here that you had the victory. Done. All right. Challenge number 2 is one you put forth.
Yes. Also, all the challenges come from things we've basically gotten into since the last Gauntlet. Your characters take the place of Michael Weston in the series Burn Notice.
His name isn't Bernald Notice.
It isn't.
Wow.
You start when he gets back to his hometown of Miami. Same restrictions apply. If you try and leave the city of Miami, the government's going to come down on you with a sack of bricks. You have to solve all the problems that crop up in the first season of Burn Notice. Help the various people Michael helps. And as an extra challenge, since there's 5 of us and not just him, you gotta figure out who burned him. Which he doesn't actually do until season 3.
Okay. All right. Extra wrinkle there. I did forget both of us in that shopping challenge. I would have contributed to my team because of my vast experience working in retail, especially during the holidays. But again, the city is helping one of your characters. I don't think that ends up mattering much.
I'm not a super big help, but Kingston sweeps on this one.
I'm not familiar with Burn Notice.
Basically, the first season of Burn Notice is a series of small mysteries or problem people that you have to get rid of whilst trying to murder as few of them as possible. Not none of them. Some murder is allowed, but only when it gets very serious.
So, Dennis' cover job is he works for an insurance company, and he investigates insurance cases that end up being mysteries with greater complications because he's trying to make sure people aren't trying to scam the insurance company.
Right.
And, I mean, he goes toe-to-toe with Jessica Fletcher. Also, I have Skullduggery Pleasant and...
Noted detective
with magic powers. And also... Bobby Singer, noted mystery solver with borderline magic powers, and then a hitman.
Oh, we're allowed to kill this one? Sweet. Bye.
Bat! And now you're dead! Bat!
I have exactly 2 mystery solvers. Aloy definitely has the ability to solve powerful mysteries and has some powerful technology on her side that could help. Now, here's the thing. She's a cave woman.
My team also has me.
Yeah. He's actually quite good at solving mysteries. As his DM, it's very annoying and very amusing. Both in equal measure. But more specifically, he's a 6'8" murder monster. Reacher is actually quite canny. He's a former investigator for the army.
Well, and you're using Reacher from the show, the more book-accurate Reacher,
yes,
as I understand.
Yes. But having said that, he is a good detective. He's not a great detective.
Okay.
He's a very pragmatic guy, and that helps his detectiveness very much. I feel like we definitely passed the challenge, but you have accidentally picked a guy tailored to beat this challenge. Except that he's not as much of a physical threat as Michael Weston, and for that you have everybody else on your team.
Yeah.
I feel like this isn't a problem.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys clear this challenge comfortably better than my team.
I would have to agree with you.
Because this happens specifically in Miami. So Kingston is still a City Domain cleric. He is still a D&D cleric. He is still very badass.
Yes.
Physically very powerful warrior just by being like 8th level by the end of the campaign, I think. By the end of Season 1 at least. Or maybe 10th, I don't even know. And like he has special powers when he's in a city, but he's not an investigator. He solves mysteries by adventuring. He's an adventurer.
I see.
And that's not the same thing.
Right. Well, I will take my victory where it is given. The next challenge laid forth was Protect Grogu, The Mandalorian Season 1 and 2. This is a bit of a genre shift. None of our guys are really spacey with the exception of Aloy, sort of.
I feel like of the people here, none of my characters have any problem at all adapting to the new normal.
No, I think Arthur especially is going to be a really good ace for your team here with his incredible, borderline supernatural gunfighting skills.
Yeah, like, it's never addressed directly in universe, but there is a vampire in Saint Denis. This universe is vaguely supernatural.
Sure.
Deadeye is magic powers.
Sure.
It's low tier bullet time. If you give him a blaster, he's going to do most of what Din Djarin did. Mm-hmm. And blasters are easy to get by killing someone who has a blaster.
Or purchasing one at the local store.
Reacher is in the same way a guy who's very comfortable with violence, very comfortable being on the move. He literally doesn't have a house. So I assume they're inserted like when he finds Grogu, when he finds the child. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't feel like any of my dudes have a problem here. They're all fairly comfortable. I don't feel like there are any standouts. There's a lot of time not in cities, so Kingston's not at his best. He's still a cleric, so he still has magical healing abilities. Very useful. But he's not at his absolute top tier. Aloy absolutely can adjust. Oh, this is other weird future tech? Yeah, okay. That's fine. This is Tuesday for me.
Sure.
But I don't feel like I have any standouts. So the question becomes, do you feel like you have any standouts in this field?
Well, you do have someone who's equivalent to a force-sensitive, force user in your cleric.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is helpful. And in that same sense, I have Skullduggery, whose use of magic exceeds what is commonly available through the Force or even technology.
Also, worth noting, Kingston and Reacher know what Star Wars is.
So does Bobby. I don't know about the others.
I'm pretty sure Bobby is the only guy in your team who I could reliably say knows what Star Wars is.
Like, maybe Skullduggery, but also maybe not. I don't know.
Feels like he probably would. Like, he doesn't have the Harry Dresden problem. He can go to movies.
Sure.
But I don't really know when Skullduggery Pleasant takes place.
I want to say it's the 90s.
Yeah, it feels like it. Yeah. I feel like are there cell phones?
I don't believe so. No.
Yeah, so not quite modern day.
I have, again, for as powerful as he is when he is powerful, Laszlo has the caveat, not only being a fuckwit sometimes, but of having sunlight sensitivity.
A lot of Star Wars takes place during daytime.
It does. A lot of the specific things that happen with Grogu take place during daytime.
Now, there's nothing to say they have to.
No.
Because that's the thing, is the prompt is protect Grogu. Din Djarin had to do that whilst also following his credo.
Sure, yes.
And being a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Nothing says that our guys have to do that. They just have to keep Moff Gideon away from him.
And I think Gideon with the Darksaber is the real question mark challenge. Can our teams overcome him?
In the first season, notably the Mandalorian does it indirectly. He doesn't end up fighting him. Right. He ends up taking him out in a spaceship, I believe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think I have a problem with that. I have a guy who can cast Divine Intervention if worse comes to worse.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, now but he gets replenishment every round.
Yeah, I was about to say that's pretty baller.
Might not work. It's a low opportunity for it to work, but Moff Gideon isn't force sensitive.
True.
So I feel like he can't block bullets, blaster bolts, or bows and arrows.
And he almost never wears a helmet.
So, in the first season, he's kind of got plot armor anyway.
Well, he doesn't show up until like the very end.
He shows up at the very end when they're already kind of fucked, basically.
Yeah, I think we both make it through.
Yeah, and I feel like you have honestly a bigger handicap in that you have two kind of just regular Joes. But Bobby's a very adaptable guy.
He is.
He knows what a Star Wars is.
Yeah, he's good with machines, and there's lots of technical manuals.
I think the biggest challenge for both of us is when we start, do we get the Razor Crest? Because if we don't get the Razor Crest, we don't have a spaceship. So we're stuck on the planet where you find Grogu.
I feel like either team would be able to acquire a spaceship.
Well, yes, that's a given.
I feel like they're canny, charismatic, and capable enough to accomplish that. So, I don't know that that's really much
It's just sort of an extra challenge.
Sure, yeah, it's an idea, but I feel like they would... It's something they have to handle, but I feel like they would handle it.
But, with that said, do you feel like you have anyone who's enough of a standout to really overshine my team?
Overshine? That's the question. And I honestly feel like this is the theming of our team. I have guys who are specialized at different stuff. And what they're good at, they're very, very good at. Again, assuming Laszlo isn't really busy, trying to get a witch's boob hat. But magic is going to be incredibly useful. Magic unrestrained by the rules of the Force in almost every situation. But all of your guys are so much more well-rounded for this kind of task that I don't know that having one edge is going to tip the scales. This is really even as far as I would maybe give you a slight edge, but I don't know.
I feel like it's very even as well. Call this a draw unless we have to go back to really nail down if it ends up a draw.
Sure, okay, I'm down with that.
Because I don't know that there's either, because I think basically both teams clear. So if it ends up being a tie, we'll
reassess.
We'll reassess.
Yeah. Entirely possible. There are 6 challenges. All right. You want to introduce what you chose before knowing who was on my team?
Yeah.
What challenge 4 is?
Before knowing who was on his team, I picked. You have to get through the plot of the first Skullduggery Pleasant book. You replace Skullduggery himself. Your team does. It's made a little easier because there's 5 of you. Speaking of, in the Star Wars round, we know what Star Wars is, and more specifically, we know the plot of The Mandalorian. So it's not about figuring out what Grogu's deal is. It's about getting him to where he needs to go, which we already know.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier. But because I always forget that we're on these teams because we're civilians, and old civilians at that. But I picked. You got to get through the plot of Skullduggery Pleasant.
I feel like I have a small edge on this one.
I feel like you do. I feel like you maybe have like a small edge. You see, I know the plot of Skullduggery Pleasant. I know enough about about what's happening and who we have to, what we have to do, what's going on, what the mystery is, that I feel like I could direct my team. You know as much as I do about the plot, so you also could tell Skullduggery what you remember about the book, and he would use that to just solve the mystery instantly.
Right.
And also, he's literally the guy you're replacing, so it's just the same, but then you also have a friendly vampire, different kind of vampire than in those books.
Yes.
Bobby Singer, and a gentleman thief, and you, adding on to literally the guy you're replacing. So I feel like we're all good here. On my team, no slouches, certainly able to clear. I feel like with my knowledge of what's going on and their ability as investigators and people who are very comfortable with violence, it doesn't get nearly as far in my situation as it did in the book, because I already know the mystery of how to get to the thing, that they need to get, the MacGuffin, to stop the evil plan, and we can just do that. We can just do that immediately.
And a lot of that area is like fighting D&D style plant monsters and shit. So like you have an up on that.
I feel like my team, no slouches, but I feel like you win by virtue of it being just the same thing, but you have additional help.
And there's a hilarious thing you noticed in reviewing. I'm usually the guy who does this. The first episode we did of this, an echo that is happening.
Yes, in the first episode we did the plot of Mass Effect, and he picked Shepard. In the second, in this one, we're doing the plot of Skullduggery Pleasant, and he picked Skullduggery Pleasant.
Fun stuff like this, in addition to trying to keep us honest. Not that we would, but, plausible deniability, I guess. Fun stuff like this is why we like to pick things secretly, away from each other until we convene and share. That's really funny.
Yes.
So the next challenge is another one of yours.
The next challenge is you have to you replace basically the main character of Shadow and Bone. It's a Netflix series based on a book series I've never read. I liked the Netflix series quite a bit. I'm going to simplify this because a lot of what happens in that series that is the plot is very personal to the character. So we're just going to make it, you have to get through the Shadow Realm, and I'm being kind of vague because he hasn't seen the series, and I kind of would be okay if he watched it. I don't really need him to.
We'd have to have Netflix, is
right.
the issue.
And you have to defeat the ultimate, you have to figure out the source of the I forget the name of it, the tear, the rip, the big Shadow Realm in between the two places that are trying to connect, and defeat them. It's a mystery. I actually know what it is, so I feel like I have an up here.
Sure.
So I can just tell him, hey, it's that guy. That guy's the source. It's him. He did it. Kill that guy.
All right. So, in that sense, I'm sure your team is strong enough to take that guy out.
Yeah, he's basically immortal. My team is strong enough to render him no longer a problem.
Hey, whatever one needs to do. I think, research-wise, if there are texts on the subject, my team will get there eventually.
Well, they figured it out in-universe. Like, the people in the show figured it out. So it's not figure-outable.
Right.
And you have a wizard detective who has magic powers that don't fit into the universe, which will make him very interesting to the person responsible for the Shadow Realm thing.
Okay. For
reasons that would be obvious once you were into the situation. Also, you're not you're genre savvy, so once you show up in that universe, you'll see the person responsible and go, it's that guy.
Yeah. Okay.
You know how I know? I recognize that actor. That's how I know.
Big Pokemon energy. He's got unique hair and starts talking about his passion project a lot.
It's him. It's that guy.
Yeah. I think because of you, ironically, your team will probably get there first, though.
In this instance, yes. Just because I know what the mystery is, I know who's responsible, and I know his weaknesses. So, yeah, we win.
Do you think we lose anybody? I don't know the level of this threat.
It's very basically, it comes down to like how much time you spend in the Shadow Realm with no sun, filled with terrible monsters. My team's not going to do much of that. We're basically going to huck the guy who's responsible to it into it, because that's kind of all the shadow monsters in that realm hate him.
Okay.
And want him dead, so he doesn't go in there. Because you wouldn't, right? But you have the Shadow Realm filled with terrible monsters? You mean my Miami Beach vacation?
Yeah, I do have less.
So I feel like that part is easier for you. Okay. You don't lose anyone because you have a guy who's uniquely suited to fighting this particular threat in this particular way, and a very durable skeleton wizard.
Yes, I was going to say backed up by Skullduggery. That's pretty good.
I wouldn't be a problem because I would be like, don't go in there. We just go. We get the guy. We throw him in there. But to be fair, I don't have any powerful physical warriors. Kingston Brown is an old man.
I mean, you got Reacher.
Reacher, yes. Reacher he's very badass, but he doesn't have magic powers.
I see what you're saying. A magic physical warrior.
He's not superhuman.
Right.
So that part of it would be a challenge, but I feel like it's an overcomeable.
I think between the four of them,
yeah,
by their powers combined,
One of them has a gun, so that's going to be a new thing.
Well, and Aloy is like peak human efficiency.
Yeah, she can stab straight through metal with a spear, so I feel like she's got some sort of like peak genetic like engineering human perfection thing going.
Okay, well that brings us to our last challenge. We are tied up right now, so this will be the tiebreaker. The mission is to survive Yharnam, that is to say the main plot of Bloodborne.
Now, you don't have to beat the plot, right?
I mean, if you don't stop things, you will eventually succumb to it.
Okay, so you do have to beat Bloodborne. Not the video game, the challenge.
Right, but you don't have to do the DLC. And there's a lot of side stuff that is not necessary.
Okay. Can our protagonists collect blood echoes to become stronger?
I don't see why not, because if we're in the Hunter's Dream and we're not just melting or whatever, then we kind of have to. Like, that's how that works.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very, very confident in my team. I'm not leaving the Hunter's Dream. I will stay.
I think Bobby, Dennis, and I are going to stay in the Dream and do research.
Now, you have an advantage here because you know what the plot of Bloodborne is and where to go.
I mean, I do. I'm good guy in the chair for this.
I don't know shit about Bloodborne.
Sure.
I know Blood Bad, probably.
I do have more knowledge of the lore.
This guy over here in the chair, secretly an asshole. But let's not let him know we know that, because I don't think he cares about that until later.
I mean, he spends most of the game napping.
Yeah. So this guy, an asshole. Do we have to kill him to stop this? I'm not sure. Why don't we figure that out? But, like, keep an eye on him. But, like, Kingston has magical healing abilities that come back every time he rests.
Yeah, that's helpful.
And the three other murder engines on my squad will just become super. This is good. This is the last challenge, even though we don't keep things through challenges, because these guys are going to be very high level Bloodborne protagonists by the end of it.
I think the biggest concern I have is keeping Laszlo in check.
Well, I mean, what happens if he drinks some of the blood?
Oh, it's fine. You use blood vials to heal.
Oh, so he's fine.
Probably.
This is really just like a party for him.
I mean, maybe a little bit. Depends on how easily corruptible by the blood he is. That's why Dennis and Bobby and I are going to stay in the Dream, because we'll probably go cackling mad pretty quick. Seeking forbidden knowledge and stuff, that's kind of our thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like, if nothing else, Skullduggery will pull things out. He's basically a Bloodborne character. He's a Dark Souls 3 character who's now Bloodborne.
Yeah, I feel like your team. Probably is not as equipped for immediate violence, but only because of temperament, not ability.
Sure.
Laszlo is a super strong, super fast vampire.
Yes.
So he could wreck shit if he so desired.
So this is a pretty close one, I feel.
I feel like it is. I feel like the edge, again, like me in the last round, the edge here goes to you because you actually know the plot of Bloodborne.
Yes.
So you know where to send them to solve the problems.
I will give you one more question to see if we're any closer. Maybe make it clearer. Is there anyone on your team who would be cool with eating an umbilical cord?
For power?
Well, to get the final ending.
We turn into a space maggot?
It's a slug, first of all. Thank you very much. Secondly, it's beautiful. Thirdly, yes.
Me.
You'd eat the umbilical cord?
To get final victory, yes.
With enough salt?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because, like, none of them are doing it.
Laszlo,
I'm just staring at them here. No.
Laszlo might eat the umbilical cord without me asking. So.
Where's the umbilical cord? We need that. No, I ate that, darling.
The weird, delicious rope thing I consumed not a fortnight ago. I mean, it's a pretty close one.
It's a pretty close one. I'd say I honestly give it to you because you actually know what the fuck is going on.
I suppose. I forget to consider knowledge as...
Well, that's why we're on the team.
Sure.
Because otherwise, some of these plots become unsolvable.
Right.
Like, without literally Skullduggery being there or someone who knows the plot of Skullduggery Pleasant, you lose. if you don't know at least as much about the world as he does, you're fucked.
And that was my
Serpine's
question.
Just going to go around you.
That was my excuse me, question about Shadow and Bone is how much do you have to be part of that world to know what you're doing?
The main character isn't she's obviously from that world, but she's not very familiar with the mysteries of that world. She discovers them through the course of the series. And this is the main character half the show. There's another whole half of the show. It's a whole different set of conflicts, but it's not super important at the moment. The person you're replacing figures this stuff out. So it's all stuff you can figure out.
Okay. Well, if there were a decider, an actual winner in the Protect Grogu round, it would change my victory to a draw.
That's true. We would be tied.
Yes.
Well, provided if there was an actual victor and it was me.
Well, yeah. If you were the victor in there. So is that something we should explore a little further? Do you have any...
I just don't know that
If one of us had an ace pilot, I would maybe...
Yeah, and if it was riding horses was super important to, because it happens you ride horses in the first season of The Mandalorian, but it's not necessary.
No.
That's a real distraction, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But if riding horses were important, or riding mechanical horses were important, or riding the tram were important, we'd be all set. But no, not an ace pilot amongst my crew.
Yeah. I've got a couple good drivers. And the guy who doesn't need to breathe and can fly. So, well, I guess I will take my crown.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you picked a solid squad for this, and you happen to get one bye round.
I really did. And it's funny because I was a little worried with two vanilla humans, knowledge on their side, but vanilla humans, that I had underpowered picks.
Well, the thing you did is you picked two vanilla humans and then two incredibly powerful undead who basically can't be killed, barring specific weaknesses. Now, Laszlo has to be played around a lot stronger because he's a vampire, so he has a lot more weaknesses.
And he's a fuck.
And he is a lazy piece of shit.
Yeah.
But he knows to get back to his world and his beautiful wife with her beautiful vagina, he has to play ball. And we've seen him when he wants to play ball.
That was why I ended up picking him anyway, is because when he is committed to a project, he is a mastermind.
So I feel like it's all good. I feel like this was a very close episode of the Gauntlet, but I feel like you comfortably take this win.
Well, a little shine on my apple.